Hi, I'm Kelly and welcome to Kapowski Reads, and this week I am going to be reading the highest rated book on my Goodreads TBR as well as the lowest rated book on my Goodreads TBR. In my TBR game I had mentioned that I wasn't super sure whether I completed my TBR or I didn't because of the grey area of the DNF, and so many of you were super lovely and reassured me that a DNF shouldn't count as an automatic fail. So I'm very grateful for you for saying that. So I am counting the highest rated book on my Goodreads TBR as being part of my TBR. The lowest rated one is just for fun. So the book I'm going to be reading is actually the fourth highest rated book on my TBR, because the top three are part of a series that I haven't even started and I can't really jump in at book 6. That feels wrong. So I had to scroll down until I got to the first book from the top that wasn't part of a series, or at least if it was part of a series I was up to date with. So that meant that I was going to be reading The Ministry of Unladylike Activity by Robin Stevens. And this book has got an average rating of 4.42 stars out of 5, which is very high, which makes me super excited. And it is a new book. It's on my 23 in 2023 list. So I'm excited to get another one of those ticked off. And I have read books by this author before. I have actually read 4 books in the Murder Most Unladylike series by this author, and I absolutely loved that series. So I'm excited to read this. And so far I have read a little bit. I'm about 100 pages in and I haven't even told you what this book is about. This book takes place during World War II in the UK, set in the south of England. And this book is about 3 young children who are trying to find a spy. They're trying to find a spy, and it's part of a new series by this author. So the book, I'm 100 pages in, about a quarter, and it's quite slow so far because it's a new series. So lots of new sort of introductions of characters where previously the characters and the dynamics were all already set up. So everything has to sort of be established. So it's taking a little bit of time to get there so far. I have been introduced to the 3 main children, May, Nuala and Eric, and I love Eric. I love him. He's just an absolute lamb. And I really like that the children are all so different, but they're not really. They've got their similarities, but for them it's kind of difficult to see that because May and Nuala just lock horns. They do not get on, and I think it's because they're basically the same. They're the same person. They're so similar. They just can't see it in each other. The book, it looks like it's taking place in a grand home, which is my secret weakness. I love a grand home, and I know that there is a murder mystery element in this book, but we're not there yet. So I'm kind of hoping that that comes soon because I would really like to see the children solve that. I am very much enjoying the story so far, and I am now off to go and get ready to go into town because my boyfriend and I are going off for brunch. Well, it was meant to be breakfast, but it's later, so it's going to be brunch. And then I'm going to come home and do a little bit more reading. Brunch was excellent, it was delicious, and the coffee was fantastic, and I had a lovely time. I'm back now and have made even more progress in the book. I'm now over halfway through, and I forgot to say earlier when I was just sort of chatting at the beginning that this book is told in dual narrative, which is very strange because it's told from the point of view of May, who is the sister of the main character from the original series, and from the point of view of Nuala, who is the young girl that actually lives in the home where this all takes place. And it's very strange because the different chapters from the different points of view kind of repeat a little bit. And I I'm wondering if that's because this is a book intended as a middle grade book, so maybe to just sort of remind a younger reader of things that have just taken place, or if that's just a conscious choice. It's very strange for me to read a chapter from May's point of view and then the next chapter, the very next chapter, have, you know, half of the previous chapter repeated from Nula's point of view. It's very strange, and it just feels like it's slowing the pace down a bit for me, but I am not the target audience of this book, and I completely appreciate that. So that could be something that was done for the intended audience and not for me. The author did not write this with a 36-year-old lady in mind, I'm sure. It's written for younger kids. So now I have a murder has taken place, and it's all go in this book, and it's very exciting because this is what I loved about the first series that this author had written, was that nobody listens to the kids. Nobody listens to them. They just send them away. But what they don't realise is that they're sending them away, and those kids are going off to go and investigate what has happened because nobody else is. Or they're doing a very lazy job. There is a very, very unpleasant man, Uncle Sydney, and he has found himself coshed. And just coshed on the head. And he is no more. And the trio are looking into it because they know that the stories that the adults are telling the police, they know that they are fake. They know they're false, they're lying. And they are looking into what has gone on. And there's some missing papers. There's that concern that somebody is a spy and they are giving information to the enemy. And you can see that just the similarities between Nula and May are just increasing so much, but they still can't see it yet. They are still butting heads, but they're working together for the greater good. The book is also doing a very Agatha Christie reminiscent thing of having all of the family coming to the house. So in addition to Nula and her mother, her grandparents, and one of her uncles in that home, another uncle has shown up with his wife and child, and another uncle has been sent for. And that other uncle I'm very excited to hear more about because he does seances, which just very interesting, especially, you know, in this time period. I'm excited to see what kind of drama that can unearth. I have my suspicions over who did the murder, and of course I do, because that's what happens every time I read a murder mystery book. And I'm excited to continue reading and find out who did it. But also, I just want good things to happen to those kids. I am most probably going to get this book finished. If not tonight, I'll finish it tomorrow morning. And then I'll let you know my final thoughts on it. I finished it this morning and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this book. After I filmed yesterday, it got a bit dark. The book and the sky. There it was, another murder. So it very much got a little bit, oh, you know, who's next? Which is very exciting for me as a reader. And I really liked the way that it continued, that nobody was listening to these kids. Nobody. But they spoke sense and then were just ignored, which is classic. And I liked that there was just so much suspicion on so many people. And I feel like, oh, I had my suspicions on who was doing it, but then all of these other things would come in and it could very much have been anybody. And that's something that I just think is so exciting and enjoyable in a book with a murder mystery. I like the way that Daisy from the original series showed up in this book and kind of, she brought the Poirot-esque grand reveal, and I think that was quite a nice nod towards the original series. For those of us who have read that, it was nice sort of going, ah, I remember you. I really did love the amount of red herrings in this book. I am a murder mystery fan, and I feel like this was done in a really, really good way. that it just helped to raise suspicion towards pretty much everybody. So everybody looked a little bit dodgy, and there were little elements where I sort of pondered whether there was going to be a sort of ghosty storyline as well, because the cousin had seen a ghost, various people had reported seeing a ghost, one of the uncles held a seance, and I thought, are there going to be ghosts in this? What? And I thought that was very exciting because that kept me on my toes, because I was trying to wait for some more ghosty stuff if that was coming. Previously the author hadn't gone down that route, but I thought, I don't know what you're going to do. So that was quite interesting, and it kept things a little bit fresh. I liked the grand reveal. I loved where it took place. It was very, very much my kind of grand reveal where, you know, everything is slowly brought out. But I do feel like I would have preferred it to have been somebody else, because the person who had done it was the person that I initially thought had done it for the reasons I thought they had done it. So that was quite disappointing, because I called it quite early on, and then I have to remind myself that this is a middle grade book and I am not a middle grade child, so it doesn't matter if I read it and called it early. It's not for me. I can enjoy it, but the book was not written for me. I would have preferred it to have been somebody else. I had all of these elaborate little scenarios in my head, and I kind of hoped it was going to involve somebody else, maybe some knitting needles, but it didn't. Didn't show off the gorgeous end pages, and also the hardback. I just need to show off the book. So the book, lovely. However, there is I don't know if that can come up. There is the crossword on the hardback, which is the crossword that brings Eric and May to the ministry in the first place. So I think that's a very nice touch. And inside the book, there are some end pages, which are very sort of reminiscent of posters that would have been on display at the time. And the book gave me a bookmark, which I love. I love a bookmark. I don't need a book to give me a bookmark, because I will happily use a receipt, but I like when it does give me a bookmark. So yay, it was fun and I had a good time reading it. I'm now going to be thinking about reading my lowest rated book from my TBR, which is downstairs. So I'm not going to go and get it. I'm going to put a little graphic up of the book. It is The Lock-In by Phoebe, Luckhurst. And this book has got 2.95 stars, and I don't think that's overly low. I got this book from a friend at a book swap. We showed up, we brought some books that we either didn't enjoy or just didn't think we were going to read again, and we did a little trade and it was lovely. And this was one of the books that I got. As far as I'm aware, it's about a couple who find themselves locked together in an attic. I think the door handle maybe comes off or something, you know, something sitcom-y happens to result in them being locked in an attic. I believe that the people in the attic have some sort of past. That's all I know is going to happen, and I'll report back when I've actually read some of it and we'll be able to actually say what the book is about. I'm now halfway through The Lock-In by Phoebe Luckhurst, and look at this gorgeous naked hardback. Both of the books I've read for this vlog have gorgeous naked hardback. So I've got this one for the Ministry of Unladylike activity, which has a crossword on it, and then I've got this one which has the flooded home that features in this book. So this is very pleasing. I really like when you get a hardback and you can see that, you know, the publishers or whoever has just gone, I'm going to put something on the hardback. It's a treat for the people who take off the dust jacket. And I'm one of those people, so I get the treat. And now that I'm almost halfway through, I'm page 150 of a 370 odd page book. I'll take it. I can actually explain the plot a little bit better than I did earlier. The book surrounds four people who are trapped in an attic when their house floods in the kitchen, and for some bizarre reason they try and find the stopcock to turn off the water, by looking in the attic. I don't know why they look in the attic. There is a bit that says that because the fuse box was up there, they assumed that that's where the stopcock would be, but I am not good at DIY. And even I know that it's usually on the ground floor. Not right in the highest point of your house, but fair enough. So the door handle has come off, leaving them trapped in this attic. And only one of them has a working phone with them. The other ones, they just weren't prepared. Early morning, everyone's a little bit hungover, and they had just gone up not expecting, nobody expects to get trapped in an attic. And the only person who has a phone with any battery barely has any signal. So their signal is sort of coming and going. And they're kind of stuck. And so far, the characters that I've met, I feel I'm not going to meet that many more because they're in an attic, are Ella, who is an extrovert. She's kind of like a party girl. And her best friend, Alexa, who is her opposite. She's very introverted. And Ben, who is Ella's date. They met the night before. And, well, Ben's kind of stuck there with them too. And Jack, who is their other housemate, who is kind of on the fringes of their group. He's not a friend, he replaced a friend who'd moved out. He's very quiet, and you can kind of tell that it does feel like he's a bit left out, which I suppose is the tough thing about he's moved in with two existing friends. But Jack is hiding a secret, very important secret, that his phone signal is coming back a little bit more often than he's letting the others know. And instead of doing something smart to help, he is tweeting. He's just tweeting about them being in the attic, which I can't help but think Alexa and Ellen are going to find out, you know, maybe just message somebody. So yeah. Meanwhile, I'm quite enjoying reading about their attempts to get out of the attic. It involves a lot of yelling from a skylight window and making a handmade sign. The book is quite slow. I'm waiting for a twist. I'm waiting for something to happen. In the blurb, it's mentioned that Ellen and Ben have a history. However, they were introduced in the attic, where they now clearly live, and there was no sort of recognition. And I'm very intrigued to find out what that link is, because there was no hint. And the book has got multiple viewpoints. Each of the housemates so far have had their chapters, and I'm liking getting the story from different points of view. Though so far, not too much has happened other than what I knew the basics of the story were going to be, and I'm waiting to find out more. The characters are, well, I don't really like them. Ellen and Alexa are in their 30s. They might just be 30, but that's still in your 30s. And they act a lot younger. And I actually thought that this author might have been older writing somebody younger, and that's why they feel really immature. But I think the author is about the same age as the characters, so that doesn't make sense to me. But they're just quite immature. And I know that Jack is younger, but I'm not sure how much younger he is. I know that he's finished university and not much more after that. So that, I mean, he could be 22. I don't know if he's that young, but he feels about the same age as Alexa and Ellen. And Ben, we don't really know much about Ben so far, other than that he really likes just clutching his pectoral muscle, and I don't know why. But what I do know is that I accidentally had a book haul. I fell into a bookshop, came out with a bag of books. It couldn't be helped. I have some new books. I actually didn't spend that much money on them because I save up my Waterstones points, and then I get to go to Waterstones and buy a bunch of books, and it doesn't really cost me anything. I mean, it does, but it cost me £8 and I got 4 books. So Come on, that's a great deal. Who could resist? So shall I just do a little haul? Yes, I will, because then I won't feel so guilty about completely breaking my book buying ban. It's going terribly, but at least I'm accepting of it. So I got 4 books. Great restraint was shown. First up was Lady Joker by Kaoru Takamura. And I probably pronounced that name all wrong. I will research it for when I read the book and talk about it. And this is translated crime fiction? It is a translation of a Japanese crime novel which was based on a true story about a real-life kidnapping. It's about some men who are, well, they're associates they meet up at a racetrack and they embark on a revenge plan against society, basically. And they kidnap the CEO of a very large beer conglomerate and try and sort of hold him ransom. So I'm really excited about this. It sounds extremely interesting, and I mean, I just fell in love with the cover. I thought it just looked so eye-catching that I sort of sauntered across the shop to pick it up. So looking forward to this. And I picked up God Killer by Hannah Keener. Again, I will learn the pronunciation of the name for when I chat about it more. I have seen this book all over BookTube, all over it, and it sounded amazing and I wanted it, and I had £2 off. Come on, I had to. This is about a protagonist who has made their living as a god killer, and one day they meet a god that they cannot kill. I know that this book has a quest element and there are knights and demons, and I didn't want to look too much into the blurb because it's quite a short book and I was worried that I was going to ruin it for myself, and I don't want to do that. Also, this book gave me a bookmark. I know I don't need bookmarks because I'll happily use a receipt, but I love when I have a bookmark that matches the book. It just feels so special. And end papers. We've got end papers. Stunning. Very excited about this. I've just thrown my bookmark across the room. I will pick that up in a bit. I then picked up Cursed by Marissa Mayer. And I picked this up 100% because of the cover. No, maybe like 70% because of the cover. 30% because of sprayed edges. Patterned edges. Stenciled edges? Pretty edges. I don't know what they're called. And then I realised that despite there being a sign, a sticker on the cover that tells me that this is the sequel to Gilded, I didn't realise it was the sequel to Gilded. So I then had to go back and buy Gilded because I can't read this if I haven't read this. That's I mean, I could, but I don't think that's setting me up for a good time. I don't know. I don't know much about this series. I just saw that it was a fairy tale retelling and it was a gorgeously presented book, and I went, oh, I want that, and I needed it. So I don't know a lot about this. I'm sure I've seen this a lot. I see a lot of books on BookTube and they all just go into my mind of I want to read that, and this must have been there for that reason too. I am fairly certain that this book is a sort of Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and I loved Spinning Silver, and I really do. Rumpelstiltskin is a fairy tale that I will read pretty much any retelling of, so I'm very much excited to read this, even though I went and bought book 2 without buying book 1. I will read book 1 first. I'm really excited to read this, and I do not regret my haul at all. I was using points. It's like when you go to Boots with your points card and buy all your Christmas presents with the points. You've spent no money. It's just logic. Yeah, so I'm gonna go and finish my book. I will report back probably in a couple of days when I have finished it, but I'm enjoying it so far. And despite it being the lowest rated book on my Goodreads TBR, it doesn't read that way. I'm not, you know, bored. I'm having a good time and I want to know more. So it's going well. I've now finished The Lock-In by Phoebe Luckhurst, and I jinxed myself. Did not mean to jinx myself, but jinx I did. So the very next chapter after my last update was where it all kicked off. And by kicked off, I mean a reveal that I felt was reacted to in a very, very dramatic way when it really didn't require that. I hated the reveal. I hated it. I hated it so much. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I then felt like the characters dwelled on this big twist that was frankly not a big twist. And the book just, the pacing slowed right down and it just dragged. They did eventually get out of the attic and I just felt like by that point I didn't care what happened. I did consider DNFing this book at the 200-page mark because it was very obvious when the reveal came in the attic what had happened, and that is the only reason I didn't DNF, was because I wanted to see if the author did something else, and that would have really increased my enjoyment because I just felt it was really predictable. I need to vent, so I'm gonna put, if you want to read this book, I'm gonna put spoiler down here and I'm gonna give a spoiler, and when I've stopped with the spoiler that'll be gone. So if you don't want to know the spoiler, just skip ahead or mute until the spoiler has gone. Yes, okay, let's spoil things. The twist in this book was that Ben and Ellen had chatted on MSN Messenger back in 2009 when they were 17. And Ben and Ellen had this almost a romance sort of thing. And they declared that they wanted to meet each other and they had feelings, and then Ben ghosted Ellen. And Ellen spent 13 years memorizing those conversations and his username and was still just so upset about this and really angry that people implied that she should maybe be over something that happened 13 years ago on a chat function with somebody that she wasn't even 100% who they were. They had never met, and Ben claims it wasn't him. Ben had previously also mentioned that his home computer was in the living room and he had 2 younger siblings. Can you see where I'm going? Anyway, I just felt like this was just so the reactions were so over the top. I know that of course she would have been hurt at the time. I just felt, oh girl, get over it, calm down. I thought I was being harsh, so I quizzed my friends. So very scientific research was carried out and none of us remember even our MSN username, our own username, let alone the name of somebody else that we had spoken to. I could not tell you any conversation I had on MSN Messenger. None. So that is my spoiling session over, but I think you can maybe see why that just ruined the book for me. And I feel like the landlord was brought in a few times as just this ogre, this tyrant who is breaking all sorts of letting laws, which annoyed me so much to then find out that Alexa, her father was a lawyer. Didn't think to maybe have your father, who is a lawyer, look over your tenancy agreement, or even ask him if it's okay for your landlord to just walk into your house. It's not. I just thought the book was ridiculous in a bad way in that second half. First half, I was enjoying it. I was thinking, ooh, you know, maybe it's a 3, maybe it could be a 4. Let's see what the second half brings. And the second half, oh no, I wanted to give up on it. I ended up giving this book 1.5 stars. I feel so guilty because I was so excited about it. That's fine though, it happens. If you remember your online username from 2009, let me know in the comments because I feel like I may be being too harsh. I did quiz upwards of 10 people and none of us remember. So I could be being super duper harsh and I don't want to be. Just because I didn't enjoy this book doesn't mean that you won't. So I would always sort of say if the blurb and the sort of vague plot that I'd mentioned previously sounds intriguing, give it a go. You might love it. And I really hope that people do love books that I don't like, because I always feel guilty when I don't like a book, because I know that somebody worked really hard on it. So that's why I'm not gonna, you know, absolutely trash this book that I didn't like. I'm just gonna say I didn't like it. The twist made me angry. Maybe that is trashing. I hope it's not. So I'm really enjoying seeing how my opinions compare to the Goodreads rating system. I love that last time I tried this, my lowest rated book on Goodreads was my favourite book. It was my book of the month, actually, I think. And my highest rated book last time was one of my least favourites, and actually led to me giving up on an entire series. I'll pop a link in the description to that video if anybody is intrigued. And this time it was the other way around, where I liked my highest rated book the most, and I did not enjoy my lowest rated book the most. So very interesting. I am looking forward to doing more of this kind of thing. I'm looking forward to doing this again sometime. It was really fun for me, and even though I didn't love both of the books, I did have a good time with both of them, even though I went off one of the books in the second half. So all in all, I am counting this as a success, because I read 2 books, I had a nice time. What more could I ask for? Thank you so much for watching. Bye!